2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. Door, 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 door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over in a short amount of time, so stick around. We're going to go over current events, what is happening around the planet, and of course, what is going on around the corner. We'll be right back right after this.
One, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the D's at the D's at the D's. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Remember, you can get notifications over at marfooglenews.com. Sign up for email alerts and much, much more. That's marfooglenews.com. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to go over. Again, there is so much going on that we're going to try to fly through tonight. And because of that, I want to make sure that everybody has access over to the website for our full bibliography. We make sure that if we show you a picture, a tweet, a video, a picture, a document, an article, no matter what it is, we make sure you have access to it. That way you know exactly where this information is coming from. Now, when you go to the website, it's very easy to navigate. You just look for today's thumbnail. It's getting worse. Anomalies. We'll, of course, talk about the weather anomalies and everything else that's going on. Once you click on that, it will bring you to a website of all of our bibliography. And again, there's also a ton more. When you hit the yellow bar, that is web-only content. That's the stuff that's basically too hot for TV, adult, or too far to one direction for us to cover. And again, that's the stuff that basically gets people to argue in circles and circles and circles. All right, and then remember, there's an entire other show down there. Make sure to go over and check it out. All right, let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing tonight?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
Big thanks to Be Real Beast, Susie Bailey Coopty, and Irish Rebel for your support of the last show. Thank you for popping in. And of course, everybody that has already popped in today's show, thank you, everybody. Appreciate that much. And let's turn on. Let's see if we can turn this on and that off. Hold on. And let's see. Turn on the viewer. Okay. Boom. All right, so about 1,500 so far in the door. Make sure to share this out on all of your social media platforms. It is a live show. Anything can happen. All right, let's get right into it. We have, of course, Musk threatens to walk away from the Twitter deal. Now, some of you are already tired of this. I am kind of getting tired of the fact that, you know, is he going to buy it or is he not? I understand why they are saying all of this and essentially saying that maybe there's a lot more bots. In fact, Dex, do we have a tweet on our website? Do we have that tweet of the Texas? Basically, now there's multiple people saying that there may be... Oh, never mind. I didn't send it to you. I'm sorry. There's a tweet that essentially talks about there are different congressmen and senators saying that their local Twitter has so many bots that it's affecting different events. It says that Elon Musk is threatening to walk away from his $44 billion bid to buy Twitter, accusing the company of refusing to give him information about its spam bot and fake accounts. Lawyers for the Tesla and SpaceX CEO made the threat in a letter to Twitter dated Monday, and Twitter disclosed it in a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. The letter says Musk has repeatedly asked for the information since May 9th, about a month after his offer to buy the company, so he could evaluate how many of the company's 229 million accounts are fake. Now, they say a certain percent, Dex, isn't it like 2% or under 5%, but it's actually what he's claiming that it's way more.
Yeah, they've claimed it's less than 5%. They've claimed that publicly in their public filings. So it's sort of, you know, part of the company and part of the valuation of the company.
Sorry, I don't believe it. Personally, if I say anything about a certain topic, all of a sudden 10 accounts pop out of nowhere that are brand new accounts that aren't even my trolls. They're the subject I'm talking about trolls. So I'll talk about a controversial subject on Twitter, and then all of a sudden there's 10 accounts that pop out of nowhere. They've just started. They follow the first 5 people that they suggest on the automatic, like, follow these 5 popular people. Here's Mr. Beast and Bill whatever and this and this. And they're always like a brand new account, and they are just, their entire object is to go against that subject. It's not even against me. It's not even one of my trolls. It's just a troll in general against the subject I mentioned. And I see this because it's like, I'll talk about a different subject, then all of a sudden a new account pops up, and it's like, it's just meant to go after that. That's my opinion anyways. Again, I don't know if they're all fake people or if it's just one of my trolls just trying to go against everything I say, but I doubt it. All right, and then, so one thing about this, though, it's like, did he just do all this to be, like, cool for a minute? I know that that's not it, but, man, I sure hope it's not. I know that a lot of people are, starting to get mad and saying, like, you just need to buy it, and no matter what it is, pay the $44 million or $44 billion, and save it from the controllers, right?
Right.
Either way, I mean, Dex, wouldn't you rather him just buy it anyways?
Well, I totally get what he's doing. There's 2 points here. One, if he's buying the company based on its value, and obviously there's not that many people on there, it's really worth less, and so he should be looking for a discount. The other side of the equation, he's probably looking for a discount because the stock market overall across the board has gone down dramatically since he made that offer. So the value of Twitter would go down dramatically. If he never made that offer, it would be a lot less, and he could have made a better offer. And keep in mind, he was leveraging his value of stock in Tesla. So if that has gone down, which it has, just like everything else across the market has, he actually either has to pony up more stock that he may not be comfortable doing to reach that price tag, or look for a lower price. So I totally get it from both sides, but ultimately, if it is, if you went in and bought a brand new car and they told you it had a V8 engine, and you go to pick it up and it's a 4-cylinder, you're going to want a discount, right?
Yeah. Well, I get that, but at some point he already offered like way more than what it was worth in the beginning. So it's like, it's just kind of funny he wants a discount after offering more than what it was worth, and now apparently wants to bring it back down to kind of what it may have already been worth in the first place. I don't know. Thank you, by the way, Kimbria. Hey, everyone. Good evening. Kimbria over on DLive. Vicky K. Stacy Bumba. We've got Renegade PD. We've got Battle Cat and DFW Jackie. Thank you. Lots of old school people in there as well. I just want to say a big thank you to Jacob Winter for the super thanks on Closer Every Day, the last show we did. And then Billy Leather, thank you. Bones and Tub Show, Heather Hatch. Thank you, everybody that has done super thanks on that on the replays. It is really cool that people that can watch the replay can actually comment and do super chats. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. And then, of course, Be Real Beast, again, thank you. Almost every show been popping in. Joseph Newhouse, again, made a new video. That's awesome. Love to hear that. Irish Rebel. Adam, do you know the name of the guy who said... What was that? Who said the population of the Earth was going to be reduced by 70% by 2025? Irish Rebel, that would be Edwin J. Deagle, but I don't know if it's exactly 70%. It is, well, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody else, but I know that Edwin J. Deagle worked for 5 administrations, and his absolute specialty was statistics. In fact, the reason why he worked for so many presidents is because of how good he was. If you actually go and look, we actually did a video all about Edwin J. Deagle after he had passed, because temporarily the Deagle report, which shows this by 2025 a mysterious drop in population. In fact, 70% of the U.S. population just disappearing in his predictions for 2025. We talked about that because the website actually got deleted for a minute, or got taken down. Through the Wayback Machine, people brought it up at the time we did that show, but then apparently it's back up again or something, and it may have changed a little bit, but it still shows this huge drop. why that matters is Edwin J. Deagle actually had presidents decide what to do based on his statistical skills. He was they called him a savant of his days, as far as he could take statistics from all types, thousands of different references, and put it in kind of like what they are trying to have supercomputers do today. And basically, he said that based on UN information, on the three-letter agency that controlled the last 2 years, on all this different information, that he predicted that we would lose here in the United States, in Canada, in pretty much all of the allies. Well, that's another thing I pointed out. All of the allies, not the Vlad, not the Xi, not the one of the I countries, but all of the allies had a huge drop in population. Was he saying that we are going to get in a conflict and that we are going to lose? I don't know. But I do know it is very creepy when you start looking at how much of his life was spent advising presidents and telling people what to do, and they base their direct decisions on his statistics. So that is creepy. A lot of people thought it was just some, out there website. It was actually a guy who was very respected in his field. So yeah, I do totally know about that. Edwin J. Deagle, Deagle Report. Deagle.com, I believe, if it's still up. And then Simply Pony, thank you for the support. And again, I appreciate you. Let's see here. The reality is Joseph Newhouse, Knows to Be, and Mystery School. Thank you, everybody that has popped in. So I'll pop in and say thank you to a few more people after about 4 articles. Now, I think this loaded out on this, but Musk basically conflict with Twitter over his buyout deal. Now, Dex, do you want to go over this next one? Essentially, as far as this whole conflict, it's gone back and forth. Do you have anything else to say before we move on?
No, I think we've covered him. We all want to know what's going to happen. I think ultimately we're all tired of hearing it. We just either want him to, get the deal done or not, right?
Exactly. And then we have NYC cancer trial delivers, quote, unheard of result, complete remission for everyone. This sounds like a parody. This sounds like Babylon Bee, but it's not. It says a small NYC-led cancer trial has achieved a result reportedly never before seen: the total remission of cancer in all of its patients. Now, this sounds too good to be true. I'm sure if they do put it out, it's going to be $18 billion per pill. That, I guess they could, because normally they would get $18 billion and suck it out of you over the death of the life, right? Or life of the death, or the period of the death. Basically, because they probably do have a cure. To be sure, the trial, led by doctors at Memorial Sloan Kettering and backed by maker GlaxoSmithKline, has only completed treatment of 12 patients with a specific cancer in its early stages and with a rare mutation as well. But the results reported Sunday in the New England Journal of Medicine and the New York Times were still striking enough to prompt multiple physicians to tell the paper why they were believed to be unprecedented. One cancer specialist told the Times it is an unheard of result. So it does say, according to the NEJM paper and the Times report, all 12 patients had rectal cancer that had not spread beyond the local area, and their tumors all exhibited a mutation affecting the ability of cells to repair damage to DNA. So very odd mutation as well. After being treated with the dostarlimab, is that really dostarlimab? Put some dostarlimab up there. All 12 are now in complete remission, with no surgery or chemo, no severe side effects, and no trace of cancer whatsoever anywhere in their body. I know a lot of you have essentially emailed me or DM'd me, and a lot of people talk about cancer in their DMs, because I've spoken about, I've lost several people to cancer. I've lost people in my family. I lost my best friend. I took him to all of his treatments, and within 6 months, he was diagnosed and gone from esophageal to then liver, then to brain. It was absolutely horrible. So many of us are very pissed off at the very idea that they may actually have more treatments than we even know about, or possibly that the very top tier of people have access to stuff that maybe the low tier do not. I would like to hear your opinion about this. Is this something exciting, or do you think that this has been around and now they've got some other way to nickel and dime? I don't know. A lot of people do not trust the big Udical companies. And there's a reason why. There have been so many lawsuits. It's insane how many times they just pay people off rather than actually fixing a problem, as far as they'll put out a certain thing like this. So say on the 13th patient, it's instant, unalive. And it's because they put something in there that's a very obvious thing. Well, they would let 20 other people probably perish before saying, oh, maybe we should take this off the market. Because, it looks good. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then apocalyptic dust storm that took the lives of 4 people. Hold on here. Could hit Europe this month. So we talked about dust storms prior, and I don't know if you remember, if you watched my show for the last couple of years, we talked about that dust storm that went across Africa, and I believe it went across Asia. This says that an apocalyptic dust storm that has already taken of 4 people and hospitalized thousands could hit Europe as early as next week. A number of countries in the Middle East have been suffering from extreme weather caused by the change, leading to orange-colored, dust-laden skies. So again, this already sounds like something out of the Bible. It says in mid-May, a sandstorm blanketed areas of the I country, and the I ran to the store. And now hospitals are overrun with patients experiencing breathing difficulties. So do you remember? We actually had this because of smoke in the Northwest, and it looked exactly like this. This is scary, it's biblical, and it's absolutely terrifying. But this is also something that Europe may be looking at. We are seeing these kinds of crazy, worldwide events every year now. Dex, do you remember this when you were a kid, as far as all of these weird things that have happened across the everything?
Not as a child, but I know we've talked about these sandstorms actually making their way all the way across the Atlantic and hitting into Florida and into Georgia. And I know we had that dust. It was probably 2 years ago, if I remember correctly. We had some of that, and they said we would have a little bit of a haze in the sky. It was nowhere near as bad as you're seeing in this picture. But yeah, this stuff can go pretty far. So with them talking about, I guess, the patterns of air movement there, this is heading up into Europe. We'll probably see something similar from, I think it was North Africa, where a lot of it was stirred up and it gets into the upper atmosphere and then comes across all the way across the Atlantic, just like a hurricane would, right, in the upper atmosphere, and then drops onto Florida and Georgia and some of the other southern states.
So obviously, it's kind of crazy when you zoom in. It's just crazy to see Nikes. They're planetary. It's like wearing this getup with some Air Force Ones. Just kind of funny. Bible Talk 777. If thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shall be saved. I might have cut that off there. And shalt believe in thine heart, and that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. Please, fam. Bible Talk 777. Again, thank you for stopping by almost every show. You didn't have to do that. Again, I think you could have done that big of a comment with a $2 one. But thank you so much. I appreciate that. God bless you. And again, perfect timing. What a biblical story. And it's more and more happening just with the locusts last year. I mean, it's like, when is it all going to pop off? That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Or do you think it's just a freak of nature? It's a one-off. Well, obviously it's not, since it's happened several years in a row now. And then Elon Musk again asks why leaking DOJ won't spill client list. Doesn't that seem odd? Dex, this is kind of weird. Why is he popping up in this field as well?
I think he's poking on them because there's always
Poking
talk
on
about investigations, whether it's SEC or DOJ or other things regarding him. So I think he's sort of poking back at him.
So anybody that says something about him, he's like, oh yeah, why haven't you released that list? I would actually like to see that list as well. Great point. There's also a lot of things that they have not released, like the rate of people that essentially disappeared off the planet for a certain year. That hasn't been released, and former and prior numbers have. Very weird. Like a certain year, they just didn't release those numbers. Kind of weird. But, that's how they roll. So, again, things like this make you think like, man, this guy's awesome. I see all of the connections the guy has, not only with Xi, his second largest platform is in Xi's country. You, of course, have the connections with Tesla, with the helping out power grids. You have the boring company, boring tunnels under cities. I mean, what else could that be used for, by the way? If they were just like, oh, here's the public project, and then here's a couple side projects for the government, we're able to bore holes under the ground and make these cement, what do they call them, bunkers? I bet the same technology could go and do something like that too. Or tunnels for military to travel across the country, like they have in Vlad country and Xi country. In fact, most of our enemies, the big ones, have a whole tunnel system under their cities for military purposes. So I believe we do too. It's just a lot less known. Dumbs, they would call them. But again, with this, and there's, of course, SpaceX launching all of our military stuff. So I'm paying attention. We will follow it so you don't have to. Again, we will cover all of it. Before we go on, and we're going to move on to the family of late Hillary advisor Mark Middleton. I just want to remind you guys that my whole show is running off of a Flex 1500 energy solar generator. If you haven't looked into solar generators before, I would highly recommend going and looking at these now, because an energy solar generator is absolutely silent. No one will hear it from blocks away. It is chargeable not only by the wall, you can fill it up to full if you have electricity, and then when it goes out, you'll have a certain amount of time, or you can actually charge it via solar panels. Now, the solar panels are super easy. Just plug and play and put out in the sun. Therefore, you have power. Again, this is an awesome system because it is expandable. Normally, if you buy a solar generator, it is built in with the battery, and then once the base unit or the battery, if either one of them later down the road degrades or anything, you have to buy a new one. With this, what is really cool is if the head unit, if there's a more advanced unit later down the road that comes out, you can either replace that head unit, or way down the road, if you want to add extra batteries, or do 96 batteries, which you can extend it up to 96, a full wall of batteries, you can do so. That is what's so awesome about it. And right now, there is a sale of $170 off on certain kits. Again, there's sale across different kits that they have. And again, up to $170 off, which is... it's a big discount, but it's also very rare for these kind of companies to do any discount right now. It's in high demand and in low stock. So again, I would highly recommend getting them as soon as possible. There is a small waiting list. The waiting list has gotten smaller, but that is because of the stuff that goes into making these. The extremely high quality. This is, again, one of the highest quality solar energy providers out there. Marfooglenews.com/energy with an I. Make sure to use the code Marfoogle to get any appropriate sales. All right, and that, again, helps us out, and it helps you out, and you get something that you'll be able to keep and use and possibly may save your life down the line for years and years to go. And then we have the family of late advisor Mark Middleton block release of files relating to his unalive. Dex, you want to cover this one?
Yeah, certainly. So this is basically almost like a repeat of something we heard, right, in the past, but this is actually relatively new. And what's happening is the family themselves is trying to hide the further details regarding this person's passing, outside of the fact that the headline was they passed in hanging and with a bang to them in a farmland ranch 30 miles from their home. But there's all sorts of ties to, both to the Clintons, right? So that just then fuels a lot of people that have a lot of theories about what may or may not happen here. And we're probably, everybody here is sort of asking the same question. So what they're trying to do is not release any more information so people can't find out any more details. But this is definitely one of those that I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to dig into. It'll just add to the laundry list of, of all of those theories that run around this particular political person, and as well as the potential connections to EpiPen as well.
Okay, so what's crazy is that there's this whole world of fact. Okay, so after Jeffrey and all of this happened, and he was able to, on watch, just, unalive in a jail, well under that kind of watch, and then the video disappears from it. I mean, how high does it have to go, right? And most people that look at this, here's what's so crazy to me is there's something like that, and if they just hammer you with an answer that's like, oh, well, it was an accident, it was this and that, and if they just hammer that in, people start believing it. It's almost like if a pathological liar, they start believing their own lies. It's if the media just says something enough, after time goes by, the people that really didn't follow it that closely in the first place, when they go and look back in history, that's what the fact is. That's what's considered fact. But when you watch it live and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so dirty, this is corrupt, this is garbage, it doesn't matter. Because if they just keep pounding you like, no, that didn't happen. Oh, you're crazy. This is what's frustrating so many people in the country, is because people that are seeing the fact and the true nature of these things are being called crazy. And that's why you should never stifle free speech. When you have free speech, or you can't even talk about ideas like this anymore because you can get knocked off. And I mean, you could get knocked off, but like, them, where it's multiple things like, oh, I'll just kick the chair out and then bang, bang. Okay. But you can also get knocked off all the platforms. Talking about this kind of stuff, it's just absolutely crazy. We should be free to, but again, this is upper level stuff. And then Xi's plan to go to the moon, Mars, and beyond. I personally, I know that a lot of people do not see eye to eye with me on this, and some people do not believe in space. I do agree that I was watching a comedian the other day, and he was making fun of basically what we think. They think, oh, this is crazy. Well, think about it. We're on a ball floating through space of infinite nothingness, and the infinite nothingness is expanding and getting bigger. So nothing is getting bigger. And he's like, it doesn't make sense. And then he says, and we're all made of molecules. I'm molecules, you're molecules, and then there's the oxygen between us, and those are molecules. And he makes a joke. He's like, but my molecules, no, I'm Pete. Pete Holmes, that's who it was. I'm Pete. And your molecules, no, you're Dave. He's like, it doesn't make sense. A lot of stuff doesn't. Think about the accepted facts compared to whatever. But I do say, like, I guess what is it called when you have I guess a bias or confirmation bias or something, where basically I've grown up with space and I hope it's real. I really do wish everything about the universe is real. But I am open-minded enough to not be just, a dummy and not listen to people when they talk. But as far as this goes, it just fascinates me because all of these different countries are trying to get off Earth. Why? Do they know about something that we don't? Is it just a complete, M. Night Shyamalan twist? Is there actually, is it a stage set like the Truman Show, right? Who knows? None of us have been to actual space. But it says 3 Xi astronauts have begun a 6-month mission to work on the country's new space station. It is Xi's latest step towards making itself a leading space power for the decades ahead. Now, Dex, I'd like to talk about exactly what we've talked about in the past. They have their own space station now. The ISS is on its last legs. And now the ISS, Vlad, and G are possibly not even going to work together in space. Now they have weaponized space. This is directly from the DoD. And that was actually days, just days, like within a week. I don't even think it was 3 days after the, what was it? The big blast in, what country was that? The big, huge blast that they said was,
the root?
Yes. Bay. Root. That explosion, days after that, it just coincidence, they came out and said that energy was real, directed. They said that space was weaponized by all of our enemies, and that there is a conflict going on above our heads. That gentleman from the DoD said as well, gentleman from the Pentagon, a gentleman from the EMP task force. You're talking about all the Space Force officials saying that there's a conflict going on above our heads and we don't even know about it. This is the same stuff that's like, this stuff is all happening. And meanwhile, we're watching Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. We're watching the politics play out over this and this and that when that's not even going to matter because something bigger is coming. And they've hidden it in plain sight. Very weird stuff.
Well, and this was the first time I learned about the decommissioning of the ISS. So that's actually happening in 2031, according to this article. So, and they being Xi's country, have been excluded from it, obviously because of the U.S. laws banning the space agency from sharing data with Xi's country. So that's why they're not there, and it's also why they're building their own, right? But it also, makes you wonder, like, what's next if we're going to do something to replace ISS? If we've only got 8 years left, what are we doing? Are we going to not decommission it? Are we going to build something new? Or are we just going to let it be decommissioned, and then G will be the only one up there with a large space station?
Yeah, it's almost like there's a end date or something, and they're like, well. It's not going to matter. Well, let's set it for 31. None of us will be here anyways. We'll just set everything for 2031. Because after 2030, we'll all be dead. Just kidding. Am I? Probably kidding. Secretly believe that I'm not kidding. And Japan's Kishida may join NATO summit to discuss UKR crisis. We mentioned this on a previous video yesterday, which, by the way, I hope you guys appreciate the 7 days a week videos that I've been trying to put out through thick and thin. So I appreciate everybody that's watching those, sharing those out, and getting those to new people and new audiences. And the whole goal is to grow the Foogle fam. But this says something. They're not even in the Pacific Atlantic Treaty, blah, blah, blah. They're not even in the area to be a part of this, but they are considering joining. Now, this matters because I believe Japan will play a big part in WW3 if it eventually happens. And eventually we will have a third world conflict. Unless we evolve in the next couple years and turn into a type one civilization, I don't think it's avoidable. We're human beings. Human beings have always had conflict, and we make horrible decisions. We're all, every human being, they're materialistic. They, put themselves before everyone else around them. It's incredible. U.S., good example, 92%, I want to say 93% of the entire time the United States has been the United States, it has been in conflict. So just a tiny percent was out of a conflict. Most of it is like, oh, we're not in a conflict. We got to get in a conflict. But as far as this goes, Japan, watch Japan carefully. Mark my words, they're going to play a bigger part in this. And by the way, most people don't realize Japan is heavily looking at Xi, and there are their own set of threats. They believe Xi is going to go after Taiwan, then go after Japan. That is firm in what their comments are, their statements, and their leaked audio. So, not good. And then Xi building secret base in Cambodia, officials say. This backs up what I've been talking about. And Dex, I've talked to you about how we've had Foogle fan members even before you came along that have told us they are doing a ton of stuff under the cover and under actual, like literal cover from satellites. And they're mass building just Navy ships, aircraft, carriers. Of course, you've got their shadow militia. You have all this stuff and bases that are secret. What do you think it's all for?
Well, we certainly know they have expanded their claws into plenty of other ports around the world, from Africa to other countries, even I think even in South America and Central America,
Australia,
where they do these deals to try to support that country. But in reality, they're doing a deal that they know is going to be in their favor, because it doesn't take long for that deal to go sour, and then all of a sudden they take over the port, right? And that gives them, control of waterways, or control, or at least a potential base conversion if they want to do it. In some places, they've actually created bases. So this is one in particular that is very much disputed. Some are saying this is not true, and others are saying, yes, it is true. And there's information coming out showing that it's happening. Of course, the country of Cambodia is saying, oh no, we don't allow that here. But others are sort of saying, nah, we can see what's going on. It's covered in secrecy, but you can deny it all you want. We can see what's being built.
And not to mention, we've shown you that Xi has been going after the leaders of all of these different countries and trying to do these side deals where they get either protection or they get a future. Who knows what they're telling these countries, by the way, like, hey, WW3 will be in a couple of years, and you're gonna want to be at our table. Otherwise, you won't be on a table. You won't be at any table. One of my basic thoughts is that Xi has a lot to do with everything that's been going on for the last 3 years, and that they have spent a lot of the money that we have given them to then use that to get people into everywhere. They're really good at infiltrating. And I'm not saying this to be like, this is again not the Xi, the people there, but the government. That is all of the analysts, everyone who looks at this knows that country is super good at infiltrating and getting people in to where they need to be. We also know this because they've even gotten into all sorts of different media, different newspapers, different places. And just recently, just a tiny bit of the iceberg got kind of shown when there was big publications like New York Times big that were doing stories that were basically doing public opinion that was positive of these guys for money. So again, I don't want to say specifically, I want to say the New York Times, but if I'm wrong, it would be at that level. Like, Washington Post, New York Times, the big ones, the big 5 real big ones. And they were doing articles saying like, Spratly Islands belongs to them, that this is what we think. And all of those got deleted after someone brought all of this stuff up and saw the money connections and all that. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And the general civilians are not going to know until it's too late. And that's why if somebody is watching this and they're scared, then you haven't either watched enough or you're skipping steps. Like I've said, I really firmly believe that most of you guys are desensitized to this. You're ready. You've been thinking about this for years too. I didn't have to tell you any of this. You have already been following it. I have some of the smartest people in my audience I could ever imagine. Again, you guys already know what's happening right now. So it's not like that's to somebody that's new coming in. It's like, I'm not telling you guys this. I'm with a bunch of people. Most of the people in the audience next to you, they all believe the same things. So again, this is where we gather and we talk about just ideas and everything and what's happening. Speaking of which, make sure to thank your mods down there for keeping it an awesome place. Over 4,000 in chat. Thank you, everybody that has come here. I thoroughly appreciate each and every one of you there and over on DLive, of course. A few hundred over there as well. So thank you. And then Greg Davis. By this time next year, we will have a very bad food shortage. The world power are stocking up like crazy. India pulled their grain exports. Greg Davis, We've mentioned that briefly. That is a very scary thing when you look at what India is doing with other countries. They have been doing drills with, of course, with, I want to say even Vlad and Xi. And India, remember, they were mortal enemies with Xi, but I think something got worked out. And I think I'll have more proof of that in the next couple months. I've been looking at it for 2 years. Remember that they're at odds over the Himalayas. They've both pulled back their military. Now they're, basically doing these three-way drills and things, including some of the axis of evil and all that too. So there's a lot of stuff going on. That might be on purpose. Who knows? From Australia, Machina Opus, thank you for your support. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much from down under. Cannot say thank you enough for all the support you have shown us over the last few years. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for the super sticker. Nana of Montana, huge support. It says, thank you, Adam Dex Mods, for always staying on top of things. I appreciate that. Again, thank you. Simply Pony. On top of the news, you look and sound better too, Adam. So glad you're feeling better. You know what really made a difference is the Z-Pack. The Z-Pack that I got at like 5-6 days after I got all the other stuff, antibiotics. So thank you. And then Dex, USSK conduct Navy drills. Before we touch on that, and we've got new stuff since the last video, I do want to remind everyone, if you do want to get yourself some long-term survival food, there's no better time than yesterday. Again, the prices of all of these things are going up. Luckily, we have My Patriot Supply. They have not raised their prices. They did not raise their prices through CV. I guess the one downside over the last few years is when it was at the peak demand and low stock, they took away a few of their discounts. But right now, they have $150 off on the 3-month supply. That is when you go through our link. Again, that helps support us. That helps support yourselves as far as long-term survival food. You get a discount and something that you can hold, you can actually use. And again, most people believe if everything does hit the fan, or even a bad event in any part of the country or the world, that you will be set as far as food. And of course, if you get an Alexa Pure or something like this, filtration system, you'll have food and water covered. So these are very important things. They also have iodine tablets for the small percentage of people that are worried about any kind of nuclear event. They have power banks. They have all sorts of different things there, including all sorts of survival gadgets. Now, when you help us through these kind of measures, as far as buying through the affiliates, again, you're getting a discount, you're helping your favorite channel, and you're supporting this ecosystem of independent channels just like mine, that if we cover something that's even close, we can't, we're not treated the same. So I appreciate everybody that helps us through these. But again, you are getting something amazing out of this. You are getting MREs sealed and ready to go and storable for years. This is long-term survival food, which is getting harder and harder to get. The prices on all of this is going to go up. With inflation how it is, it's a better thing to have something like this now than later, because these can last years. In 5 years from now, this might be worth 3 times as much as you paid for it. Some believe that you should have a lot of this for barter and things like that in the future, but that's a little bit extreme. On a regular note, We have earthquakes that are very overdue on the West Coast. You have a possible earthquake and tornadoes and hurricanes on the East Coast. You have all sorts of things that could just be a non-end of the world. It doesn't have to be the end of the world for these things to come in play. We know that we have already helped save lives with the stuff that we have given here. There have been several events, people from all over the world that have gotten this and had their own regional disaster. We know that that between this EMP shield, somebody just commented that the EMP shield saved their house. It could be thousands and thousands of dollars. With Nord, I'm sure people have been saved from cyber crime. And with this, people have had food when something bad happens. They get snowed in. We know that. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody that does support through those. And again, you get something amazing out of the deal. All right, and then Dex, you never got really to comment on all of this, but as far as SK and the Joint Navy drills, we've been following every one of these, and most people didn't even know this was going on because everybody was following everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So the weekend was hot and heavy when it comes to NK, SK, Japan, and the U.S., right? So as we've reported, there's a lot of speculation about the potential of a new nuke test coming from NK. And in doing so, or in preparing for that, the U.S. and SK got together and had a huge joint Navy exercise that they ran in the waters near Japan to sort of deter NK, or at least show a sign of strength against them and deter them. So that's what this was sort of the start of the tit for tat, right? So NK wants to do a nuke test. They see all the preparations happening on land for it. They think they're going to do it at some point. So US, SK, Japan get together and they do a large exercise. Now, mind you, all of this is after our president made that big tour throughout Asia, right? He just got back from that. So then that was the beginning of the weekend. That's sort of what started it all, started the tit for tat. And then as we progress through these headlines, you're going to see each step along the way. So as soon as this happened, then we turn around and we have NK launching short range ballistics and doing it in a test. And it turned out they launched 8. I think this article said it didn't know how many at the time, but when you go to the real article on the website, it'll be there. But they launched 8 of them into the ocean, into that direction. So while we do the drills, as soon as we wrap them up, they launch 8 missiles at us. Now, the new news, because this was all what we reported over the weekend, happened. So the next step, and that's the next article, is SK, probably in conjunction with us, went and fired their own missiles, the same number, to match what NK did as a sign of strength and force back. So this tit for tat went on all weekend long, and these are pretty significant events that have happened, and they all happened one right after another.
Think about the military that went into play, and the men and women as part of both of those militaries. They're launching these gigantic, missiles out into sea and practicing this thing. Just imagine, put yourself in any of their shoes. The NK soldiers, they've been brought up in this crazy separated world. They're probably scared crapless, and then same with the SK. That is another huge hot point in the planet. And it's like, there's so many different places where if just one link of the chain breaks, the whole thing sparks off. So that's why preppers prep. It's not like a 0.01%. You can't have that because you've got multiple hot points around the world where if any kind of mistake happens. Now, most of the time, because these are, most are logical people that are running these places, when something happens or an accident, they wait, they call each other, they talk to each other. We've had so many close calls over the last 30 years, and most civilians and most people will never, ever hear about them. At the same time, they've happened. I'm sure we've done a test where they didn't get the memo, or they've done a test and we didn't get the memo. And by they, I mean any of the major state, launching a nuke. I know we've had close run-ins with our subs. I know that Vlad had one of his subs blow up, and they said that they averted a planetary catastrophe. What the hell was it? Again, I think that Ilea and others and some of the stuff that has gone on, who knows? That may have been one of those nukes on board that could do a 300-foot wave or 1,500-foot wave, by some reports. A 1,500-foot wave. Think about that. Higher than the highest skyscraper, sending a wave over the U.S. or U.K. or anywhere. I mean, this is crazy stuff. That's why we talk about it. So you can get desensitized to it and not be so afraid and make a logical decision when something does happen. Whether it be the end of the world or whether it be a regional earthquake or a tornado or a hurricane. If you think about this stuff beforehand, just like the military, just like the government, they drill, they practice. And when you practice makes perfect. Antony Blinken accuses Vlad of taking UKR's grains. Now, this is a touchy subject because you're dealing with the world's food, and apparently something is going on here. But who knows? This is, we don't know what is Ganda, what is actually happening in the world. But we do know that they're accusing them of taking these grains, putting them off to the side, and so starving us out or something. One thing that says to me, though, is that the government is looking at this and going, hey, we're going to have this big food shortage. What was that comment just a second ago? Greg Davis said, by this time next year, we will have a very bad food shortage. The world powers are stocking up like crazy. Greg Davis isn't wrong. We've covered all of these stories. All of these countries. Think about what now Canadian Prepper, again, some of you may know, but he is a kind of a middleman store, and the Red Cross called him up and said, hey, we want to write you a blank check. We want all of your MREs. This was just a few months ago. Why is the Red Cross calling up the little guy and saying, hey, I want all of what you got? Why are they stocking up like this? Especially the Red Cross, right? Well, you could say, oh, it's because of UKR. Or is it for something else? Why DHS and others, they stocked up with enough pow ammunition to fight a 20-year conflict. In fact, more than that. They said that all of the ammunition that was used in all of the I country from 2001 to 2021 does not equal what DHS invested in. For what? Target practice? And then just recently, DHS wants to invest in rapidly deployable checkpoints, mass fatality tracking systems. These are all things that are confirmed through actual government documents. Wearable radiation detectors, broadband walkie-talkies that can work without cell phone towers, and they're practicing landing on freeways with Hercules and A-10 Warthogs. Something is going on here, and again, the food is going to play a big part of it. You control the food, you control the population.
Well, Adam, one of the things I've noticed with certain people that I have acquaintances with, and I know what they do and what's up to them, a lot of them that are in positions in let's just say military industrial complex type roles. Okay, I don't want to give anybody's name out or give any of their positions away, but a lot of these people who I've talked to over time, they're all prepping. All of a sudden, they're buying tons of food. They're storing up, especially MREs. And so it's not, certainly there's these NGOs like Red Cross and others that are doing it. And they're doing it. And a lot of the stuff they were originally doing were shipping over to Europe. They were just trying to stockpile as much as they could. But I'm seeing a lot of people that I normally didn't see do this are all like the writing's on the wall, and a lot of people are in the know, and they're putting the food away right now because they know the hard times are about to get here.
If you add that in with people like Atlas Survival runs one of the biggest bunker companies, all of a sudden he is one of the busiest and most successful guys out there. I've watched Atlas Survival for a long time. He's a very eccentric guy. I would love to have him on sometime, but as far as the stuff that goes on, I remember his company was not the hugest company, but now you look, the guy has just, his company has gotten bigger and bigger, and his warehouses are getting bigger and bigger. And I'll take it at face value. He says that he's working with the top 5 of the richest people in the world are building bunkers right now. In fact, one of the 5 richest men in the world is doing one of their bunkers through Atlas. And here's the thing: if he didn't have this, just all of a sudden now he has huge warehouses, he has all this stuff. I mean, it's crazy. His business is booming. I mean, look at it. I've followed him for at least 10 years or something, 5 years. I don't. Before I was on, I want to say, since he started on YouTube when he was tiny. The guy it's booming. Absolutely stupendous growth in the bunker area. Separately, these things are one thing, but man, when you start putting it all together, it's getting to be ridiculous. Shirley Millward, thank you. Machina Opus, again from Australia, thank you so much. And Danish Girl, big support. Hey, thank you, Danish. Let's see, love the info on here and have watched for years. Thank you. Again, thank you, JC4324. Really enjoy your music on the Mix channel. Hey, well, thank you. You are one of few. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, JC40324. Denise Leslie, how do I send you an info video? Well, you can tag me in it on Twitter at Marfoogle, or you can send it to adam@marfooglenews.com. But I do get so many emails, it'd probably be better to tag me on Twitter. Love the info on here and have watched for years. Thank you, Adam Dex and mods. Thank you, Danish Girl. And thank you for thinking about the mods as well. Crazy L, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, everybody that supports. All right, before we touch on what we talked about on the previous one, again, I do want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, you can protect yourself against EMP. Go over to marfoogle.news.com/EMP. You can get the same protection that many of the Foogle fam have already done. You can equip these to your cars, to your generators, to your solar systems, to your house, your RVs, your motorcycles. And if we do have any kind of EMP, all 3 phases, E1, E2, or E3, this will ground the signal in 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. It can also save your home through massive lightning if you have a direct strike, and it can also protect you against CMEs. The solar kind, a Carrington Level Plus event, has been tested for. In fact, they tested it so many times they just gave up. It was like after 42 strikes, they were like, okay, that's enough. Again, it's 100% American made. They are all made by hand. Again, this is the same company that has now worked with DHS, DOD, and of course the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. Somebody said something, and they were like, the EMT something, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know if they were talking about the EMP shield, said, oh, those don't work. First of all, this is one of the things that I 100% back, and anyone who's ever said that, I wonder if they're like a bot, because honestly, these have been tested, Keystone tested. Not only that, this is the same way that they're quietly protecting all sorts of places that, again, will keep running when everything doesn't. So I would be looking at what the ups are doing, and I would do the same thing. Again, this is the same company that was mentioned by the DHS EMP resilience report. Straight up in the report, this was one of the first companies that was called. And again, they were tiny when we started with them, and we started with them right before all of that went down. T-Man signed a hard executive order to harden our grid immediately. The information that he found in that meeting, he told the public, said, it's absolutely insane. We're vulnerable as hell. They signed an executive order, and that order kicked in EMP Shield and a bunch of other companies, and we're still years away from protecting our grid. So you can protect yourself, your own stuff. It's kind of every man for themselves at some point. Nobody's going to come save you. marfooglenews.com/EMP. You'll get $50 off per device and help our show at the same time. All right, and then nuclear conflict is coming. Vlad's mouthpiece. So we talked about this briefly. Make sure to go over to Marfoogle News and check out that video. Essentially, all of their media, and it's not just their crazier media. They have a couple channels that are more like, I guess, more Ganda oriented. This one is from one of those, but we have actually covered several of these over the last few weeks. It's nonstop. Media over in Vlad country is berating them, saying that WW3 is already started, that it's going to start, that it's coming, that nukes are coming. I mean, this is so much rhetoric. It's insane. Dex, I mean, this is way more than we've ever seen before. This is this is a new. I don't know. Would you compare this to the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, it's at least at that level, if not greater. I mean, some of the statements that are coming out, like quote unquote, there will be a nuclear conflict. That's what's being said right this minute from these mouthpieces on the major, Vlad channels, television channels for their country. In addition to all the other rhetoric that goes around it, like, conflict 3 is starting, all this other stuff. But like, there's some really, really strong statements that are coming out. And it's not, by the way, it's not just the Ganda people. It's also, state heads and others that have made, similar statements, saying things like, if you, use NATO equipment, or if we see any US based equipment that is there, then we're going to retaliate in kind back, to, the West, not necessarily in UKR, but to the West. So a lot of these statements are getting extremely strong from both the leadership, as well as the Ganda pieces that are coming from their main, media outlets there, which we know are controlled by their leadership as well.
On Saturday, we talked about the other comments, and we put a few here, and again, we compiled some of the stuff we talked about over the weekend. The horsemen of the apocalypse, as UKR conflict hits. They're talking about the 4 horsemen. The day before that, they talked about in 4 missiles they could knock out the entire United States. I mean, this is nonstop. No. Whether you believe that this is going to happen or if you think, oh, it's all just a bunch of BS, people in Vlad country are taking this seriously. And imagine if your daily television was telling you, hey, this is coming, blah, blah, blah. Think about what, even in the back of their head, even if they totally go, oh, we'll never do it. It's just all a bunch of strong talk because we're strong. In the back of their head, they're thinking, I got to have extra stuff. They are getting prepared like crazy. They have also done massive drills. They actually had every citizen of Moscow do a massive, one of the largest drills ever just a couple years ago, where they all went down into shelters. They have shelters. They say enough shelters to house every resident in the Moscow area. They have shelters everywhere. They can go down into bunkers. Do you know where your local shelter is? Most people don't. Most people don't have one nearby. Or at least one that they know about. We have underground bunkers. We have bunkers a lot of places, but most of them are for the government or for the military. They're not for civilians. I don't know if there will be a way, if they use like a mass text to everybody to tell people where they are and where to go. They've tested stuff like that with the doomsday alert. The presidential alert that we went through a couple years ago possibly could be used for upstream surveillance. Also is the doomsday alert. It's used in the same fashion that they did in Greenland, the movie, where they said, Dave Wilkes, please go to this base and you've been chosen to survive. That's a real thing. That's the presidential alert. And it may even be very specific. It could be to certain people. So one thing that freaked me out about that test is not everybody got it. It was supposed to go to every cell phone on the planet or every cell phone in the country. It didn't. It only went to certain people. A husband would be there, but his same phone line. Like they would both be T-Mobile, and he wouldn't get it, and she would. I wonder if they were testing the way to go through different providers and only hit certain people. Makes a lot more sense than some of it. But this is the rhetoric that's coming out of there. And yes, there's always been rhetoric. But this is so strong that their country is now preparing. The people of that country are preparing for a conflict. I mean, that's more than like being subtle and saying like, we should be tough just in case. They're saying this is coming. They're telling their people WW3 is coming. But meanwhile, we have people on our side, skeptics, going, oh, it's all a bunch of BS. Everything's going to be fine. It's not the end of the world. The sky's not falling. At the same time, if it does, in the slight chance it does, everybody is going to be, that mentality is going to be completely screwed. They're not going to have any extra food. They're not going to have anyone. There's people literally out there telling people, don't buy extra food. Don't buy water. Don't buy these things. You don't need them. Okay. Do you have a $4,000 freeze dryer? No. Do you have the ability? Do you have the knowledge if Google turns off to be able to do your own? Do you have the books in your bookshelves to teach you how to eat, what to eat? Or are you going to base your knowledge off of your vast experience watching Naked and Afraid? That's the point. And then 2 Vladian generals perished in one day in Donbass, or according to sources. It says a second Vladian general is reportedly unalived after heavy fighting in UKR's eastern region. Over the weekend, Lieutenant General Roman Burnikov, formerly the commander of the Vladian troops in Raya, is believed to have perished on Sunday, possibly in the same battle that took the life of Russian Major General Roman Kutuzov. This is it says the generals were in an armored column that was ambushed by UKR forces, possibly on a bridge somewhere in according to the report, the exact detail are exchanged. So, Dex, it actually doesn't say the source. Do we have, I know this is from the New York Post, but...
this is coming from a Vladian language Telegram channel called Volya Media, and that's who reported it.
Okay, so for once it's not coming from UKR. Or their officials, right? Because the whole world is getting their information from one side. And then we have Vladians threatens to strike west if UKR hits it with rockets. This is yet again another, straight up.
And this is right off of the fact that we said we were sending U.S. rockets there. Remember, we reported this like a week ago. U.S. was going to send a whole bunch of U.S. rockets to UKR. Everybody's sending everything there. Most people are sending their old equipment there and then turning around and asking, the U.S. for new equipment. We've seen that time and time again, but we just said we were going to do that. And now they're coming back and saying, if they get hit by any of those, then they're going to retaliate.
So one thing I don't kind of get is like, it's been so many red lines drawn and so many red lines walked right over. I guess it's kind of like we're gambling on which one are they actually going to enforce. When are they actually going to snap? And then we, of course, covered in the last week that U.S. intelligence actually says that they believe that Vlad has terminal cancer and is on his way out. On his last day, is he going to push a button? But even if he does, will his close people go, tell him we're pushing the button. Yeah, give him some more morphine. Oh yeah, we're pushing the button, Vlad. Yes, we're destroying the evil. Okay. Yeah, give him a little bit more. Yeah, give him the gray blanket, and then take a picture. What? Oh, yeah, and give him the Bernie gloves. Yeah. We'll do weekend at Bernie's and put him on a little bench. It'll be cute. It'll be a meme. Dex, do you want to go over the web-only content? There's a ton of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, and scroll down to web-only content. Or if you are on YouTube, just open that description and click on the show notes link. It's really easy. You'll get right here. There's lots going on. This is where the conversations and the topics get into hairy land. They get really, the stuff that's political, too far to one side or the other, things that are too hot for TV and we can't cover. Lots going on. So, some protests with baseball players. There's some politicians that are in the news and getting lots of, some switching parties or saying they're going to switch parties, which is causing a lot of hair raising. More information regarding the story we reported on earlier related to the Clinton tones and what they have done or may have be accused of doing or being part of. There's also a lot of other things going on around energy, specifically around what's happening with some tariffs that have been released or reduced around that, and much more. So if you're not going to marfooglenews.com and you're not clicking on the thumbnail and scrolling down to web only, you're missing the rest of the story. So we put all of this together every show, all the other things that we want to make sure are available to you. It's right here. So if we can't cover it in the show, it goes right here, and there's plenty of it. So go to marfooglenews.com every day. If you missed a day, go back in time. You'll see what you've been missing. And again, for those of you on YouTube, it's real simple. Click that link right there in the description.
Thank you, Dex. And again, thank you, massive thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you. Again, Zippy Moons popped in and showed big support over on DLive. Thank you so much. Ugh, I'm up so late. Ended up playing a pickup game of softball with the girls. I'll catch replay. Prayers up. Zippy Moons, by the way, I hope you watched the replay all the way through. Thank you so much for your support. And also, awesome. I'm super happy for you that you had some fun. I miss when I was a kid, my parents, not my parents, but my friends' parents across the street, they were part of a softball league. And I remember that was the funnest thing, going and playing. We didn't get to play, but we got to hang out with all the other kids. Well, the parents played softball, and it was like a league or whatever. And they also had a league of volleyball. So it would be like one season they'd be doing this, one season they'd be doing that. And I just remember how fun the parents had. Now I realize it was because they were all getting drunk and playing softball. But I was thinking, man, I don't do anything like that. I need to get out there and play softball or play dodgeball with grown adults. It just sounds like fun. Thank you, Kelly2334, Lady Green Eyes, Greifel, thank you. And again, thank you everybody that popped in. Ask about my ween. Thanks for actually gifting out a bunch of badges. Appreciate that. And then, of course, Lady Green Eyes, Grand Illusion, Chewy Weather, I Love Forever, and, of course, Jammer1. Thank you, Queen BTP, Light of Vibes, and everybody else that popped into DLive tonight. Big Fish, thank you. And, of course, Moonreg, Miss Jammer, Note Shira 19, and DFW Jackie. Thank you, everybody, for your support tonight. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Thank you, Dex. And by the way, everything will continue over in Marfoogle Jams after about 5 minutes. So you can go and chat with the Foogle fam after the show. Thank your mods, everybody that is in chat right now. Thank you, everybody. Luke Z, Joseph Newhouse, Ellie78, what's going on? Lord Andrew, Jose Dominguez, Wide Awake and Angry, Arcanove, Arcanine.
Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Give me your back now, what the hell? Jam one in the moon ray.
00324. Denise Leslie in the Kizzy L. Shirley Millward in the Minbell. Hey now in the Mono Missy Bell. Danish girl in the JT Woody Well. Whoa, 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 whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the D's 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 at the D's. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the D's at the D's at the D's. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. Jeffrey on the Jeffrey PG. Volatile in the town, you turn it on. Updated property, we all about to see. Jesus in the cloud, about to go be with the Meritorious in the Dry Family Garden. Now let everybody getting harder. Oh, now Charlie, I'm broke on me. Rookwell, alright, no bad no. Bro, back, and we gotta get a battle. Derek, man, I'm Mac, Love, and Carol, McLean. Everybody gonna be on the scene. And with the April Rose and B. Everybody gonna be with G. This is coming soon. There won't come more in the Octagon organized. We the Soul Rebel 1949. 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. Raven in the desert, going up desert. Everybody gonna eat the desert. Oh no, everybody gonna ride down. Escape from Babylon now. Gonna ride in the desert file. Everybody gonna get real down. 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anomalies at the door. Vic Ali on the bad now, pick it back. Bull running car power on the mama night. Going back now, quick on 12 mic. Everybody gonna be on cloud 9. Hey, we the G.O.R. Everybody gonna get real tough. Hey, we the Shirley Millware. Arcan over Conniter. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. Anomalies at the door. Be a tree and a be a tree. KT, cleans a lot, be on me. We the Miggy 141. I love it forever. Next door, OG, and the better. People out there now. 3 hookers and a 10 skeleton now. Both now, pick it down. 106.4 Mark. Bible talking, Jimmy 7. All I teach I on the back. Welcome back, run down in the cold. Got on Dolly on the lot, just stove. Got to go. George Washington already know. Amy on the VR. 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 CJ Blaze in the house. CJ Blaze gonna go her way. 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 Her way, her way, her way. Got it, book now. Brian and let's drop on the memory garden. Bill Belly, everybody gonna get high. Who's up there with the Robin shows? City on spill, you gotta go. Conspiracy by Isaiah. See you all later, I'm going alright. Go back down now with Josiah. Money on the man and a grab on band. Wanna bring it back round, do it on Dan. Ain't on back and everything. Go with the Argon over Ganan. Go bring it down now, bring it on down. Oh.